All right, go ahead and get settled in, and we will start very soon here. In. Right, go ahead and get settled in, and we will start very soon here. I am hearing my delayed recording here.
Yeah, we are live.
Okay. Ben, can you give me screen share rights?
Sure thing.
Thanks.
All right.
Okie doke. Awesome. Well, we will give folks just another couple of minutes here to get in and get settled. I would love if people could go ahead and drop in the chat where you're tuning in from today. We are a global community, so it's always super exciting to see and hear where people are coming from. My name is Mickey Fitch Collins. I'm your host for today's event. I'm coming to you from cold and snowy Superior, Wisconsin in the United States. So we got Deborah coming in from Seattle. Awesome. Joe, how's the weather over in New Jersey there?
Oh, it's freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a balmy 19 degrees here in northern Wisconsin. So.
Oh, maybe it's not that cold, but yeah.
Right on. Awesome. We got Laura coming in from Las Vegas. Elizabeth coming in from Paris, France. Awesome. Welcome, 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 welcome. We'll just give folks just another minute here. Again, for anybody who just joined in, we're just sharing in the chat where we're tuning in from, and always nice to see where people are coming from. So go ahead and drop in the chat there where you're coming from. Looks like we have 9 folks in here so far. I'm sure we'll probably get a few more. Deanna coming in from Fresno, where it's not 19 degrees, I'm assuming. Nor in Vegas. Okay, Kayla's coming in from Mississippi. Awesome. Probably nice and toasty warm down there. Deanna, it's more like 40 where you're coming from in California. That's still very cold for Fresno, I think, right? Yeah. All right. Good deal. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Again, hello and welcome to everybody. Very excited to spend the day or the next hour with you. My name is Mickey Fitch Collins. I am the host of our offsite community. I am very excited for you all to be part of this Learnit event, connecting and sharing with your people the right way, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams basics. I'm very excited to welcome my teammate and my pal Joe to lead our session today. To those of you that are new to these events or unfamiliar with Learnit, it's great to meet you, great to have you. Learnit is a learning and professional development organization based out of San Francisco, California, but we are located nationwide. We are committed to helping individuals learn the skills that they need to thrive in the workplace, right? So we also work with organizations to help improve things like company culture, skill sets, and build scalable training programs. To those of you that have been coming back week after week, I'm seeing some familiar names. It's nice to see those. Our offsite community has just over 7,500 people across the world. So welcome back to you all. What we are going to be doing today, this is how it works, right? We host these Friday events roughly every other week at 8:30 Pacific for an hour. Again, we are on a mission to make professional development and learning and development accessible to everybody. This is a way for us to be able to connect in community with one another, and also for you to get a flavor, kind of a short form flavor of what some of our longer form courses are. And as we get into things here, I will put in the chat kind of the link to a couple of the courses that Joe is likely pulling some material from. All of our classes, these classes are always led by one of our subject matter experts or one of our trusted Learnit pals. A couple of housekeeping items that I want to cover before I pass the mic over to Joe. It would be awesome if people can interact with us in the chat. That is the best way to get in touch with us, ask any sort of questions. If you want to offer any sort of comments, you need any clarification, anything like this, with it being a webinar format, chat is the way to get those questions and those comments out there. Also, at the end of the session, I'm going to be posting a link in the chat for an evaluation. We obviously want to get your feedback and act on that feedback, both the content of the things that Joe shares, as well as his awesome facilitation style. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce you to Joe. So Joe is recently moved. Now it's been a year or or so from San Francisco back to New Jersey. How long you been?
3 months.
3 months. I thought it was much longer than that. Okay. So was in New Jersey, went to San Francisco, now back in New Jersey. He's an avid world traveler. I love this. I learned something new when I saw this, that he has lived in Ukraine, Russia, Macedonia, Bulgaria, London, and a quick little stay in China. When he's not traveling, he loves singing, acting, volunteering, and hanging out with his wife and his son. He is super enthusiastic about being part of the Learnit team. He is one of our end user instructors and truly believes in what it is that we have to offer here at Learnit. Today, he's going to be sharing insights and strategies around connecting and sharing with your people the right way around OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams basics. So at this point, I will stop sharing and give you the opportunity to take it away, Joe.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that, Mickey. And hello, everyone. You've probably seen me on various YouTube shows with Ben Bomberry, or you've seen me on here and you've seen me on offsite. So yeah, welcome back and welcome to those that are new here. So yeah, today is going to be a lot of fun. We're really just going to go into which tool when collaboration. The reason being is because a lot of times what happens is everybody wants to do some sort of communication collaboration. And we were given these tools that are accessible to us, and it is Teams, it is SharePoint, it is OneDrive. But the problem is when do you use which one? Well, yeah. Nobody ever knows. It's just, okay, here's communication, here's collaboration tools. Now, what do we do with all this? So what I want to share with you today is which tool when. So the first thing we're going to be talking about in our which tool when, I'm just going to open up everything. Feel free to ask questions as you go along, as always. There is no wrong question here. So if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. I'm monitoring it, and yeah, we'll get to it. But which tool when? Well, the way we're going to break this into pieces is first off talking about OneDrive. So OneDrive is when you have your personal work-related files and early drafts before they're ready for sharing. So OneDrive, I typically call it the me, right? It's everything to do with you. Your OneDrive is a cloud storage system. And you can share your files with small groups of people, or you can share it with large groups of people later on. But what your OneDrive is meant for is just simply having a virtual filing cabinet in your pocket. And you all know what I'm talking about. You've probably seen this before, where we have this filing cabinet system. You probably slammed your fingers in it a couple times. I have, right? And don't make fun of my drawing. It's always horrible. But inside of this filing cabinet system, we had folders. And inside of those folders, well, we had documents. And that's exactly what OneDrive is, except you don't have a huge filing cabinet system that you're dragging around. That would be horrible. No, it lives on the cloud, which means that you have access to it no matter where you are at any time, as long as you have internet access. And once again, this OneDrive is yours. It's only yours. Nobody else has access to it unless you decide that you want to share something. So think of it as this filing cabinet system, but with a little lock on there, and you're the only one that has the key. Now, of course, if I came into the office in a real world setting and I said, hey, can I borrow a file? You might say, yeah, sure, Joe, you can. And you would share the file with me. That's the same thing about OneDrive. You can share things with people, but ultimately they are your files. They're your personal work-related files. Okay, so moving on towards the next tool, Teams. What is Teams meant for? Well, it's used for chat and conversation-based document collaboration. So when you're having a lot of meetings about a project or topic, or when you're sharing a lot of files with a small group of people. The best part about Teams is that it replaces emails about topics and projects. The reason being is we've all lived there. You've probably shared a file via email. Sometimes they'll say, hey, Joe, this file is too large. We can't use this. And then you have to either, minimize this file, or you just can't share it. Or you'll send an email out about a project, and then you'll get 10 replies, and they're all over the place, and you might miss one of the replies. The good old days of Outlook, right? Well, Teams keeps everything in a nice, organized manner. You can share files. There's no file size limitation. And not only that, all of your chat is in a threaded chat. So that means that you can type something in like, hey team, and everyone can then reply to that one chat. So everything's in one place. And I like to think of the teams as the we. You're working with a small group of people, whether it's a department or just a couple of people for a one-off project or a topic that you're discussing. Now, this brings me into my next thing though, SharePoint, point of sharing. So when is it the right time to use SharePoint? Well, it's for larger groups of people company-wide. So maybe cross-functionally across a bunch of different departments, and you want to share files with an entire company or a large group of people. It can also be used for self-service information and broadcasting. So any updates and news about the company, or maybe you want to access your resources there, you can use it as an intranet. And I like to think of the SharePoint as the everyone. So sort of going into the OneDrive and the SharePoint, those are the closest to be. Teams is also close with SharePoint because it's built off of SharePoint. And we're going to talk about that a little more. But I just want to talk to you about SharePoint itself. So with SharePoint, I'll put SharePoint over here. It's the point of sharing. So for instance, if you're sharing with an entire company, instead of constantly having someone come to your desk and say, hey, Joe, can you share this with the company? Hey, Joe, can you share this file with the company? Come on, Joe, share it. No, I'm not going to want to do that every single time. Instead, I'll probably just create a SharePoint site with that filing cabinet system, except the only difference is everybody has access to this that is in my company. There's no lock on it. The only people that have access to it are in my company, or you can even make a SharePoint site accessible to people outside of the company as guests. So this way you can collaborate with vendors as well. Now, the difference between SharePoint and OneDrive is, remember, OneDrive is your own filing cabinet system. So you're the only one that has access to this. So instead of sharing things all the time one-off, what you can do instead is you can share things in a SharePoint site. So no longer do you have a lock on this. All you have to do is simply use the SharePoint site, put any files there, your coworkers could put files there, and everyone has access to it. OneDrive, personal, SharePoint, the point of sharing. So with that said, we're going to actually go over a couple of small details today for each of these applications. First off, we're going to talk about OneDrive, how we get started with OneDrive, how can we actually access OneDrive in the File Explorer, which is offline, and how we can access OneDrive online by entering into your 365 account. After this, we'll then get into creating teams. So being able to get into a team, create a channel, and then also add posts and be able to share files. And then last but not least, we'll get into SharePoint, where I'll show you how we can follow sites and how we can even create our own site with these fun web parts and different pages. So that's what we have here for you today. We're going to have a lot of fun, ask a lot of questions, and yeah, let's do it. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is OneDrive. Now, you're going to notice that your OneDrive, if you're on your personal computer or your work computer, depending on which one, you'll probably see this little cloud in the bottom right-hand corner, which is going to be on your taskbar right there. Now, when you click into this cloud, it's going to open up this just little, I like to call it information pane, where it's going to showcase all the files that are synchronized or any files that you and someone else have been working on. So this is your OneDrive and all of the recently synchronized files. But you do have access to two things here. You have access to the offline OneDrive, where you can open it in the File Explorer, which essentially is just the same thing as clicking on your File Explorer. These two things do the same thing. Or you can access the online version of OneDrive, and that's where most of your features are going to live, in the online version. Now, in the online version, you'll notice that you can access it besides clicking on that little button there. If you're on like a friend's computer, or maybe you're out and you don't have access to your computer, you're more than welcome to access the online by going to a web browser. Google Chrome. I'm using that one. You could use any one you want. Edge, Firefox, whatever you think is right. I'm using Google Chrome today. but all you really need is just an internet connection and a web browser. Once you have those two things, you can then go to office.com, and that's where you can access your 365 account. And this is amazing because, once again, you can access your files from anywhere at any time. And if you just go down the history of how we used to save files, this now makes sense. I mean, we used to use the floppy disk, then we used CDs, then we used those little USBs, remember? And now we're just moving forward into, we don't actually need an actual device. All we need is an internet connection, and we can access these files from anywhere. So with that said, I'm going to showcase both of these for you. First off, if I just click on the cloud, I can click Open Folder. And you'll see here that I have all my different folders, files, everything right here. And it'll even give you a little status of what each one means. Now, the best part about the offline is that you can quickly transfer files here. For instance, if I wanted to transfer this Which Tool When deck that I'm using right now, I could just click and drag it, and I can move it to the OneDrive. If I want to move a copy of it, just hold down the Control key, and it does a copy instead. See how it switches from Move to OneDrive, Copy to OneDrive, and I can release. And now you'll see this little icon, which was telling me that it was synchronizing, and now it's telling me it's synchronized. It lives on my computer, but I can actually access it online, which is perfect. So with that said, you can quickly move and delete files and organize them in the offline version. But that's not where the magic happens. Magic happens online. But once again, I just want to show you, you can access the offline by clicking Open Folder. It'll open up that File Explorer. Or you can just click on the File Explorer and go to OneDrive. So 2 ways to do the same thing, and we all know Microsoft, they give us multiple ways to do the same thing. So actually, let's look at the online version now. To access the online version, if you're already signed in, just click View Online, and it will open up the web browser and bring you straight to OneDrive. And I have all the same files that you saw when I opened it in my File Explorer. Now, the best part about this is that you can create new files straight to the cloud, where I can create an online version of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and so on and so forth. Or I can even just upload files right away by clicking Upload File, and then just clicking the file I want to upload. Another thing you can do if you minimize this a little bit, maybe not that much, let's go something like this. That looks good. So if you do this, you can quickly just click and drag and also copy it to the online version. So you don't have to necessarily use this upload button every single time. Now, some of the things you can do in OneDrive is, well, first off, you can create files and folders. So I can quickly create a new folder to organize everything in my OneDrive. And as I said before, it's like that filing cabinet system. Remember, you would open it up, you would see those green folders, and you see the little tab. Same thing here, except it's all virtual. And you can quickly share things via OneDrive. All you have to do is just scroll down, hover over, and you'll see it says that I can share this. Now, the funny thing about it is if I click, let's say this folder to share, you'll see that I can share it here. That's one way. I could share it here. That's 2 ways. I could click the ellipsis and share it here. That's 3 ways. I could just hover over like this. And once I hover over, it's going to open up, let's say, a file. And I can click the share button here. That's 4 ways. So 4 ways to do the same thing. The thing I really like about hovering over is that, like, let's say I'm hovering over this one. It's telling me how long it's going to take me to read this. And it gives me a little at a glance to just showcase what's inside of this document. So I do like this little feature, but, you know, fun stuff there. Now, if I did want to share this, I can simply select something, click the little share button here or wherever you want to share it. And you can quickly share with a link, or you can click on that and change the sharing settings. Whether you want to share with anyone, in the world, whether you want to share with only people in your company, maybe people that used to have access, but then they didn't, or people that you specifically choose. You can also set if they want to view this, maybe they just need to review it for you. They don't need to edit it. Or you can choose to make changes. You can choose an expiration on how long they have access to this, and even set a password if you want more security. And if you don't want them to download this, block the download. If you're sharing it to like 1,000 people, do not click this and start writing 1,000 emails here. That would be horrible. Just copy the link by clicking copy, and it'll create a shareable link for you. And there you go. So that's some of the fun stuff you can do right away. But I just want to showcase one more thing here. See, when you're in your OneDrive, it's important to note that if you create something new, it automatically is going to open it in what's known as the online version of Word or online version of Excel or PowerPoint. Now, these online versions are great, but they are made for quick edits. So don't worry. If you went to click on a file, for instance, let's say I want to open up this fun project and I select it. I can open it not only online in the web browser, but I can open it in the project, the actual application. So same thing here. If I select PowerPoint, I don't only have to open it in the online browser. I can open it in the desktop app. So you do have choices here. But with that said, that is my OneDrive. That's how I can do one-off sharing if I quickly need to share it with somebody. What we're going to talk about next is how we can actually now share with a team of people. And this is going to be important because when we're using OneDrive, we're really just sharing stuff. We're not communicating. But what happens if I have a lot of meetings? I need to communicate about a project or a topic. Well, in that case, if you're not just sharing documents, but you need to actually verbally talk to somebody and communicate about something, then OneDrive isn't going to be what you want to use. If you need that communication, then you're going to use Teams. Now, funny enough, Teams, and I'll just close this out, Teams was built off of SharePoint. And a lot of people ask me, what is the big difference between Teams and SharePoint? Well, the biggest difference is that SharePoint is super customizable. And that's actually a really good benefit, but it's also the reason why not a lot of people like it. It's sort of like if I invited you all over to my house. You all come into my kitchen and you're like, hey, Joe, where's the forks? Well, I know exactly where the forks are because it's my kitchen. So I could quickly say, yeah, over there in the drawer. That's the problem with SharePoint. One person or maybe two people created the SharePoint site. They know where everything is, but you don't. So when you start using it, it could get confusing. And well, you're really just going off of somebody else's design. With Teams, you don't have to worry about that. It's just one interface. And that's the best part. It's not really customizable because, well, Teams is just Teams. There's one interface, it's end user friendly, and you can't really customize the interface at all as you can with SharePoint. So they actually built Teams based off of SharePoint. And they're actually connected. It's the back end. So when you create a new team, you're actually creating a new SharePoint site on the back end. And that's good news for us because that's where all of our files will live. So there's no retention for deletion. So with that said, I'm now going to come over here and start up my teams. And I'm going to show you how we can first off create a team and then add channels and what channels really are. But before I get into that, I'm going to answer this question here. AP said, hi, if I want to share the file and not the link in an Outlook email, could I do that through OneDrive and SharePoint? So if you want to share the file and not the link, yeah, you're going to have to share the file link. So whenever you're using OneDrive or SharePoint, it's creating a link because then that has access to different versions. See, it's sort of like this. If you share, and I'll just come over here and I always like to draw, so don't mind me. If you wanted to just share the file and not a link, you would have to just attach the file. The problem with that, there's limitations. You can't always attach a file because sometimes it's too big. So there are limitations on that. And another thing that's wrong is if, let's say I share this file here, I'm going to call it an Excel file. I share this Excel file via email. I send it Outlook. You get the file. Now you have a copy of it. It's a separate copy because I'm not actually giving you my file. I keep the original. I'm just giving you a copy. Then you make some changes to it. And then you send it back to me. Now I have the new copy. Then I send you a copy of the changes I made. So I made some changes. I send it back to you. Now you have a copy. So what's really happening is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 copies of this file. It's horrible. We don't want that. Instead, if you're sharing the link via OneDrive or SharePoint, what you're doing is this, and I'll make this one blue. I share the link, which means I'm giving you access to this file. I'm not giving you a copy of it. I'm giving you access. And the best part is if you make any changes on there, it doesn't become a new file. It just becomes another version. Version 2. This one's version 1. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would recommend more, of course, sharing it, because then you can always go back to a different version instead of having multiple edited files out there in the world. But perfect. Yeah, great question. Yeah, definitely. Awesome, everyone. Well, let's keep going. Let's have some more fun. At least I think it's fun. I know all of you are like, Joe, do you really love this stuff? I do. I don't know why. But what we're going to talk about next is this. How can we create a team? Because remember, OneDrive is just sharing some documents, your personal documents. But now you need a lot more meetings, communication. So I'm going to create a team for my team. It could be just a department. It could be a team of people, small group of people. And to do that, when I open up Teams, since I'm talking about creating a team, I'm going to go over to Teams section. And in the Teams section, I'm then going to click on Join or Create a Team right there. Now, once I give that a click, it's going to open up this little dialog box where it says, well, Joe, you could create a team. You could join a team with a code. You can even join one of the public teams that your other team members made. And that's the best part. When you create a team, you can choose to create it either publicly, where everyone in the company has access, or you can just create a private team where they actually need a code. And well, most of the time I create private teams because not everyone in the company needs access. So what I'll do is I'll click Create Team. It'll ask me, do I want to create this from scratch? Do I want to create it from someone else that created a team? If I did choose this, by the way, let's say one of you created this amazing team. I see it and I'm like, ooh, I want that. I want to steal that. I can steal the structure. You're not stealing any content. No files or communications are coming over. It's just the structure of it. So don't ever worry if somebody's going to steal something. They can't. They also have templates that Microsoft pre-created for you, where you can manage a project or an event or onboard employees or so on and so forth. They have so many different ones here. And they're always adding new ones. But for me, I'm just going to have some fun with this, create it from scratch. Now, once again, it's going to ask me, do I want it to be private or public? I'm going to choose private for this one. And then it's going to ask me to give my team a name. I'm just going to simply call this, oh no, let's have some fun. We'll call it Joe's Crazy Fun Team. I don't know, I'm making it up. But normally you would name it whatever the actual team is, whether it's a project team or maybe it's HR team, whatever you really want to name it, it's up to you. Then I give a little description. You don't have to write a book, but just something small. I'll say something like, this team will work on various projects at Learnit. And I'll click create. So it's going to create the team. They'll even give you a little thumbs up. Nice work. You're feeling good already about it. And the next thing it's going to ask you is, well, Joe, who do you want to add to this team? Who's going to be part of this team? And I'm going to add a couple of friends. Now, typically, if you're in a company working with teams, they have the directory already set up. So I could quickly just start typing people's names in, and that's it. I'll type my friend Ben Bomberry. Ben always loves when I use him as examples. He gets all the notifications. It's the best. I'll use my friend Mickey. and my friend Kim. So now that I have my members of my team, I can choose to add them by clicking add. Now, once they're added to the team, they're automatically added by default as members. You can quickly change this by clicking the caret and choosing owner. Now, you can have up to 10 owners, including yourself. So I can add up to 9 other people as owners. It's really important that if you're managing like 1,000 people in a team, you have maybe at least 3 or 4 other owners and co-owners to help you. You will be the primary owner of the team. Don't worry about that. Nobody can like overwrite you, but it's always good to have help. But for now, I only have 3 people here, so I'm just going to close it. And there we go. I have Joe's Crazy Fun Team. Now, 2 things have happened when you created a team. As I said before, this is built off of SharePoint. So yes, there is now a SharePoint site called Joe's Crazy Fun Team. I'll show you it in a minute. But we also get this general channel. This is the team. This is the channel. And a lot of people always ask me, Joe, what is a channel? What's a channel mean? Well, I'm going to explain. Ready? So a channel, and don't mind me, you know, I'm a visual person. So we'll say Joe's Crazy Fun Team is the team, right? And underneath it, you're going to see different channels. So for instance, we already have a general channel, which we'll talk about in a second. But we're going to add more channels. And a channel is simply a major topic or a major project that that team is working on. So Joe's Crazy Fun Team, who consists of 4 of us, we're working on a project called Project Alpha. So I'm going to make a channel called Project Alpha. We're also working on a new system for onboarding employees. So that's a major topic. I'm going to put it on here, onboarding employees. So now I have the major topic and major project, onboarding employees and Project Alpha. And this is really important because now each of these channels will have their own communication and their own files that are attached to them, which means I have now become super organized. Anything to do with Project Alpha goes into Project Alpha channel. Anything to do with onboarding employees goes into onboarding employees. This is the best part. So I'm going to actually show you how to create this channel. You're going to click the ellipsis or the 3 dots next to the team name. Click Add Channel. You have some other options here too. You have hide channel or hide the team. You can manage the team, add the channel, add more members. I did hide all my teams, by the way, for all of you. I didn't want you to get scared. Yeah, I'm part of a lot of teams. So no worries there. I hid them. I didn't want you to get nervous. Now click the ellipsis. We're going to click on Add Channel. And we can name the channel whatever we want, typically the name of the project or topic we're talking about. So I'll say Project Alpha. You could give a quick description, totally up to you. I'll say this channel will be used, make sure you spell will right, will be used to have conversations. Let's do that. Have conversations, files, have conversations and files associated with this project. That looks good. So that's what's going to be in this channel, conversations and files about this project. Now at this point, I can make this either a standard privacy or a private channel, which means standard, everyone on the team has access to this channel. Private means only specific teammates have access. And they just created this new one, shared, where you can choose people outside of your organization to have access. So instead of them having access to an entire team, only to the one topic they're helping you with, which is great for vendors. Now I'm just going to simply choose standard, keep it simple. I'm going to show this on everyone's channels list. The reason they have this option, by the way, automatically show this channel on everyone's channels list, is because, well, imagine if I invited all of you over for pizza and I said, hey, everyone, be ready by 5 o'clock to eat some great pizza. You all show up at 5 o'clock. I'm just making the dough. You're going to be pretty mad at me because the pizza's not done yet. And now you have to wait for me to finish the pizza. Same thing here. if I'm not ready to share this channel, maybe I have to make some updates to it, add some stuff to it. Why would I share it to you right now if it's not ready? So that's what this button's for. You can either automatically show this channel if it's ready, or you can not, and then show it later. But we're keeping it simple today, so I'll add it just like that. So now I have a Project Alpha channel. I'm going to create one more channel real quick. And now we have all of our channels that we wanted. So we have the onboarding process and the Project Alpha that we're working on. So here's my next question. Why do we have a general channel? Well, the thing is, Microsoft created this general channel to help us. You can't delete the general channel. You can't even edit it. You can't change the name of it, nothing. What it's there for is organization. For instance, if I was to ask all of you right now, hey, where would I put this sentence? Hey, everybody, Project Alpha's permits are ready. Okay. Well, would I put it in general, onboarding, or Project Alpha? Well, I'd probably put it in Project Alpha because that's what I'm talking about. So I want to keep everything organized. So I'd click into Project Alpha. You'll see you have two tabs, posts and files. You have those two tabs in each channel. So I'd click into Project Alpha, click New Conversation. I would just say, hey, everyone. By the way, if you press enter right now, it's going to send it. Don't make that mistake. I do it all the time. If you just simply hold down the shift key and press enter, you could skip down a couple lines. So don't worry, you'll do it once or twice still. Then you'll remember, oh yeah, Joe said shift enter. So I'll say, hey, everyone. Let's do Project Alpha finally received its permits. Now you'll see here that received is spelled wrong. I could just right click. It does have autocorrect on there. So I'll say, okay, Project Alpha finally received its permits. I'm going to send this out. Now, guess what? Everyone on my team can see this and they can reply. They could say like, yay, finally, or they can even emoji it, maybe send a like or a heart. And the reason why this is so groundbreaking is because think about it. Imagine sending this in the olden time, right? Where we'd have to send an email. Then we would get like 5 emails back and different replies, different times. We don't have to worry about searching through our emails for replies to this. It's all in one threaded chat. So I can quickly come back and see what everybody wrote about this. Somebody might have said, yay, smiley face. Somebody might have liked it. As you can see here, Mickey liked it. And we can see it's all in a threaded chat, which is great. Okay, so let's continue with this. Once again, we create these channels, which are major topics or projects. This is the name of the team. These are what they're working on. But if I wrote something about Project Alpha, it goes in Project Alpha. If I'm about to write something about the onboarding process, I would go here and write something about onboarding process, keep everything organized. But once again, what is the general channel for? Well, what happens if you just want to say something like this? Hey, everyone, you're just doing so amazing. Thanks, team, for being a great team. Okay, well, it's not really pertaining to Project Alpha. It's not really pertaining to the onboarding process. Where would I put it? Exactly, the general channel, because it has nothing to do with the other two channels. That's what the general channel is there for. So if it has nothing to do with onboarding process or Project Alpha, I'd put it here. I would start a new conversation and say, hey, team, you are all awesome. And send that out. So now you're keeping all of your conversations organized. Not only that, but you can also share files this way. So instead of people asking you for one-offs like, hey, Joe, can you send me this file? And you would have to do that via OneDrive. Now, because I created a team, I could just send them their files here so that my entire team has access to them and they don't have to keep asking me to send it to them. For instance, if I was to go to onboarding process and I want to share a file, I could click file. And I would say, okay, onboarding process, file. I can click upload a file, files, and I'll just upload this fake file here. Now everyone on my team has access to this file, which is great. So as you can see here, this is perfect. Great little thing. And we have this onboarding process with conversations and files. Now there is a great question in the chat. It says, can you explain again, what is the advantage of creating a team in Teams versus a group of people in a chat within Teams? Is it the channels, and how many channels can you have within your team? Beautiful question. So yes, there are two different ways to come up with a group of people. If you're working on a one-off project, that's it. Just a small group of people, one project, you know you're going to just do it, and then you're going to be done. I would suggest going to the chat section, and you can create a group chat with a group of people. You can share files this way as well, but it does limit some of the integration that you have with creating teams. But either way, I can create a team right now, just a small one-off. Me and Mickey were tasked with doing something, and Ben. And I can click the little caret and I can name this group. I'm going to say we're working on this small little project called Project Beta. And I've now created this small group chat where we can communicate, and we can also share files with each other. Beautiful. But that's just for a one-off thing. If I had multiple projects I'm working with Mickey and Ben on, I would definitely want to create a team to keep it all organized in channels. So that's the major difference. Those small group chats are great for one-offs, but when you're working with a team of people on multiple things, I would create a channel with these a team with these channels. And another thing that you can do in channels that you can't in the groups is you can click on the little plus icon and you have so much integration. Whether you want to create a wiki, which is an ongoing document that never ends, or maybe you want to upload an Excel file, or maybe you want to just simply look at a dashboard in Power BI. You can do that in your teams. So you can really set this team up for success with multiple projects at once. Great question. How many channels can you have also within your team? You can have as many as you want. There's no limitation on that. As of right now, nobody's hit that limitation. But yeah, we'll see in the future. But yeah, great question. Awesome. Now, here's where we get into really the point of SharePoint and Teams and their connection together. As I said before, we would create a team. And when you create a team, it creates a SharePoint site. Now, on that SharePoint site, all of these channels actually become the folders of these files. So let me showcase this. To actually enter into your SharePoint site, you're going to go to any of your channels, go over to the Files tab, and you're going to click the ellipsis. Now, when you click on that ellipsis, those three dots, you can open in SharePoint. And you're going to see now that I have a whole SharePoint site dedicated to Joe's Crazy Team, Joe's Crazy Fun Team. And not only that, if I go into my document library, you will see I have a general folder, onboarding process, and Project Alpha. I can click into it. The reason why they allow you to do this is, once again, maybe you want to create a website that's customizable for your team. So you have the option to do all the work in Teams or SharePoint, but they're always connected because Teams is built off of SharePoint. So that's really important to note. Now we're going to talk about SharePoint in the next 15 minutes, but I just wanted to answer the questions that I see coming in. Why would Microsoft call Team within Teams? You mean, why did they call it Teams? Like the naming convention? I know, AP, you sent me that one. Honestly, I don't know why. I mean, yeah, it's a little confusing. I get that. Microsoft Teams in general, that's just the name of the application. But yeah, creating a team in Teams, I get it. It could be a little weird. Yeah, I would have to just blame that on one of the Microsoft developers. I don't really know. But yeah, I can see where it could be a little confusing on that. Yeah, let's find the developer and talk to him. They're constantly making changes to Teams though, which is amazing. But yeah. So with that said, if you did want to get back to the SharePoint site or to the team from the SharePoint site, just click the X and you're back home here. But yeah, pretty amazing that you can see that build off of that. But what we're going to talk about next, we've talked about OneDrive. We've talked about Teams. Now we're going to talk about how we can create a SharePoint site and what are some of the benefits of actually having a SharePoint site. Because once again, Teams was built off of SharePoint just to be an end user friendly experience. SharePoint, you can really get customized on creating your own website with the information that's accessible to you. So let's get right into that. So the first thing I'm going to do to get to SharePoint is I have to log into my Office 365. And you need to do that with a web browser, and you need to have internet access, of course. So I'm going to go over to Google Chrome, give it a double click. Once again, you can use anything you want. I use Chrome, I like it better. I'll go to office.com. And I'm already logged in here, so it's going to immediately just bring me there. At least I hope it does. It's taking a little longer than normal. Okay, no, it's not. So yeah, it's signed into my Gilead, no worries. So what I'll do is I'm going to go into incognito mode and fool it. Let's do this. So I'm going to go to office.com. And it's going to ask you to sign in. You'll click sign in. You're going to sign in with your Microsoft credentials. So the same credentials you would use in, let's say, Outlook. So I'll just put in my credentials. Click next. Put in my password. Sign in. Put in the correct password. And then sign in. It's going to ask me, and this is not for everyone. This is just for certain companies that set up a multi-factor authentication application thing, if I could speak today. But yeah, you're more than welcome to, if you don't have this, it'll go into the next part. So if you're following along, you're sort of following the steps, you can browse around. But what I'll do is I'm going to send a text message to myself on my phone. I'll get the email. I'll put in the code and verify. You could stay signed in if you want. I'll say no. So this is Microsoft 365, where you can access all of your online versions of these apps. They even have a Teams app online if you wanted to. But what I want to really go to is the app launcher. You could call it a grid, a waffle, whatever you want to call it. Give it a click, and that's where you can find SharePoint. If you don't see it here, just simply go to all apps and you'll find it there. These are just some of the recent applications that I've been using. So I'll click SharePoint. And it's going to open up the SharePoint site here. It's going to say, okay, Joe, here's the sites that you're following. Here's the recent sites that you've quickly accessed. Here's stuff that you save for later. Here's some featured team sites if you want to go there. Just like that Joe's Fun site or the Dream Team, you can also access your team's SharePoint sites here, just like Joe's Crazy Fun Team. But what I want to do is create my own site. So once I'm here, I can click Create Site. And it's going to ask you, do you want to create a team site where everyone has access to help publish site content? Or do you want to create a communication site where you're the only one that does that, right? So it's up to you. But for me, I'll just go with a team site. I'll name the team. I'm going to call it Joe's Fun Site. I'll put the date in here, 11/18/2022. There we go. It'll tell you if it has the site name available. You can't have two sites by the same name. It'll create a group email, a site address. You can tell the site description, what is the purpose of it. You can get into some privacy settings. Only members have access to the site or anyone in the organization. This is sort of looking like Teams, right? Public versus private. I'm going to say private and click next. Then it asks me to add members. Kind of familiar. Once again, Teams. I can add whoever I want. Ben, Mickey, and Kim. I can either make them members or I can make them owners. And then I'll click finish. Now on the site, as I said before, you can customize your own website. In Teams, you can't do that. So that's the major difference. SharePoint is very customizable. I can even start designing my site. Now, right away, you'll have access to this pane. You could change this any way you want. You can go into documents, create document libraries, lists. You can edit this site by clicking edit. And there's all different pieces here. They're known as web links. So if I go over here, or you could call them web parts. This one's a quick link. This is a web part that I can delete. You'll see delete web part. I don't want that. I don't want this. I want to start fresh. I don't want to see anything. I want to design this site exactly the way I want to. So now I'm left with nothingness. You can also add different sections here where you add 1 column, 2 column, 3 column. I'm just going to add a page here. I want to delete that section. I want to add a nice little welcome page. So what I want to do is add a section. I'll do probably like a 1/3 right, and then I'll have something that's there, and then I'll have like a picture there. And I'll click 1/3 right. So what I'll do is here I might put in like a description or a picture. You'll see when you click the little plus, you can put in text, Power BI, an image. You can even put in a YouTube video if you wanted to. I might put in an image, and I can use a stock image or a web search. I'll do Learnit because that's fun. And I'll insert this image here. That looks good. And then over on here, on this side, I might enter in a text. And I'll just say, welcome to Joe's website. You can add all different types of things. Maybe I want to add a new part here that has a countdown. You can add links, YouTube, countdowns, document libraries, Twitter feeds. Maybe I want to do a countdown timer for a project that's starting. I'll add this. I'll say project alpha. You can add a description if you want, but after you're done here, when you have the web part selected, you'll click on the little edit web part, and it'll open up a little pane where you can really edit each of these web parts. Maybe I want to change this to start. Let's say this project is going to start next Friday. So now it'll tell me in 6 days. I can add a background image, call an action. If I click on this, it'll bring me to maybe a file or something. I'll click background image, add. I'll use some balloons or something, I don't know. I'm going to make it a little lighter. That looks good. And I think I'm done here. Once you're done setting up your entire site, just click republish. And now when everyone visits this site, this is what they're going to see when they come on there. Learnit. Welcome to Joe's site. They'll see the project countdown. And you can add so much more. You can add times, time zones, even weather if you wanted to. But the biggest thing is everyone has access to have conversations, documents, notebooks, and other site content. So that's pretty amazing. Now, we did have a question here, so I do want to get to that from YouTube. Is there a way to pin a team? So that's a great question. When you are working with teams, if you click the ellipsis, you'll see that you can't really pin the teams themselves. But what you can do is you can pin the actual channels. So if you're working in Project Alpha, click the little ellipsis and click pin. It'll show you what the name of the team is and what the name of the channel is. So although you can't really pin teams, you can pin channels. And that's, I think, one of the more important things to be able to pin, because you're going to be in multiple channels, multiple teams at once. So let's say I'm working at this team, but then I'm always working in my dream team and I'm working on Project A. I would pin it. That way now I don't have to go searching for those. All I have to see is the 2 channels that are really important to me. But with that said, I just want to say thank you all so much. I really hope this class kind of clarifies which tool when a little more, when to use OneDrive, when to use Teams, when to use SharePoint. Always remember that SharePoint and Teams are very similar to each other, and they're actually built off each other. But you can use SharePoint as a communication site, which Teams does not have. And you can use it to communicate across an entire company. So that's really a nice benefit of SharePoint, the point of sharing. And with Teams, well, Teams is great for communication and collaboration. And with OneDrive, OneDrive is great for collaboration. It doesn't have too much communication, but Teams does. So you'll pick and choose what is the right moment to use which one. And if you notice that people are asking you for files all the time, you're communicating with them all the time, you might just say, you know what, let's just create a team and do it that way. But with that said, I hope you all stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you all next time. And thanks for being here. Thanks, everyone.
I want to say thank you so much, Joe, for the information this morning. If we could throw some love into the chat for Joe and everything, all of the tips and tools and tricks that he shared for us, that would be super great. I do want to go ahead and put into the chat here. Here are the links to the full classes. I mentioned it a little bit earlier in the chat. The full classes where Joe and his colleagues go into all of this information a little bit further. I also want to share with you, please, a lot of you came to this via offsite, but if you are not part of our offsite community, I'll go ahead and ask you to scan that QR code that you see on the screen there. Otherwise, if you are part of our team in offsite, go ahead and click that link that's in the chat. You can share that out to your teammates and colleagues. This is another way for you to get access to Joe and all of the rest of the instructors, the really good information. You can share all sorts of stuff on there as well. And then one last thing that I would love, I'm going to put in the chat here, is if you could complete the evaluation for this session. Your feedback is incredibly important to all of us at Learnit. So anything that you can do to offer us that information back to continuously improve what we're doing would be super great. So again, Joe, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We had a group of about 25 folks here in Zoom, and I know we had a bunch more folks that were tuning in from YouTube as well. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Please check back to offsitebylearnit.com so that you can see our upcoming events in the month of December as well. So again, echoing what Joe said, thank you so much for being here. Everybody stay safe, and we will see you soon.